Zach Berry with me as well here today. It is a Thursday, February the 18th. Hope you are all enjoying snow apocalypse, ice apocalypse, depending on where you might be. It is, like I said, 5:53. We'll have hand raised guys, the Oxford Exxon podcast, at following this at about 7 o'clock. Sort of depends. It won't really be a typical hand raise, guys, because Chase can't get here. The roads in Oxford are not really passable in that regard. So he can't get here. So he and I will be sort of the old-fashioned Skype, sort of like Zach and I are right now. So we won't be able to take calls, but we'll take your questions in this thread. I think there's a thread up on rebelgrove.com. But on this particular podcast, Zach and I are going to talk about Ty Simpson. We're going to talk about Brandon Huntley-Hatfield and whatever else may come up in the 45 minutes or so that we'll spend with you. First, I want to tell you about the College Corner. 2 locations for the College Corner. One is both in the Jackson area. One is in Ridgeland. It's next to Fleet Feet. The other is in Flowood next to Half Shell. If you don't live in Jackson, it's not a problem. You can visit the College Corner at collegecornerstore.com. Link right there on the page. Plus, you can visit them on Facebook and Instagram. So whether you're tailgating in Oxford or home gating with friends and family, the College Corner has you covered for game day. The largest selection of Rebel gear in Central Mississippi. Again, collegecornerstore.com. I'm in the Clark Ford Studios. Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900. Call that number, ask for Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours, right down to the bottom line. No hassle, no haggle. You get your quote, and the rest is completely up to you. It's 662-257-1900. Zach, how are you?
Neal, doing well.
How's the
hunkered down?
How's the snow? You got to get out and hang out with the little man in the snow?
Yeah, we did. So today was actually, I guess, the first legitimate snow day. We got probably 3 to 4 inches last night. Before that, it was just ice. I mean, it was, like I saw somebody said it was raining sonic ice, which was pretty accurate.
I hadn't even thought about it that way. That's true. So I'm trying to think of the days. Today's Thursday. I guess we got the ice on Tuesday. I think that's right. We got the ice on Tuesday or Monday. Hell, I don't know.
I think it was Monday, Sunday night into Monday because
that's right. We got the ice on Monday, and it rained sonic ice because someone said had that been snow, it would have been 8 to 12 inches of snow, but it wasn't snow. It was just pure ice, and we ended up getting in Oxford. I was skeptical about this when people first started the number, and now I've started to kind of look at it. I'm like, you know what? They might be right. We got about 1.5 inches of ice, but it wasn't that wet ice. It was super dry. If you picked it up, you could blow it out of your hand. Normally that wet ice, and that's what causes all the trouble, because the wet ice gets on the power lines and stuff and snaps them, snaps trees onto power lines and that kind of thing. This was heavy. Like you said, this was that sonic ice that never gets wet. It was super dry, and then it got packed in by the cold because it got cold here, like down to 4 degrees on Monday night, and then Tuesday was really cold all day. And then yesterday we got a little bit of snow in the morning, and I thought, that's it. I'm not going to get anything. And then about 4:30 or so yesterday, I was actually out walking the dogs, and it started to snow. And then it really snowed. And I would guess we got 4 inches would be my guess of snow last night. And then we probably got another inch this morning. I think that kind of came out of nowhere. Here this morning it snowed, and we got another inch or so. So Oxford's kind of a winter wonderland. I'm sure most every place is. It's supposed to warm up tomorrow, where it'll finally start to melt a little bit, but it's supposed to get cold tonight, so the roads here tomorrow will be probably early, will be nasty, and then they'll get better as the day goes on, and then everything sort of moves out.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to warm up significantly here tomorrow into Saturday and into the weekend. I hope that holds true because we are on, I guess, day 4, closing out day 4 of little man being at home. So we've been doing the tag team like tagging in, tagging out. One of us doing work, one of us hanging out with him, and then we switch off. But I mean, it's been fun. Today was a blast. We got out there. We had an old pool float that we hadn't used yet, so we blew that up and went out there and had a good time. So it was fun. But yeah, I'm kind of ready for the roads to open back up. If you're doing if you're keeping up on the board, I don't know if anybody remembers finger gate. My fingers are pretty much back to normal, so I'm kind of itching to get to the gym.
Oh yeah, you're finally kind of healing a little bit.
Yeah, they're pretty much done. But yeah,
I took a sled out. I live in North Point, and there's a big hill that goes up into a neighborhood called Audubon, and we took sleds out into the hill today. And it was crazy. We were flying. I mean, it was great. I'm actually going to get up in the morning and go take advantage of it when it's super slick, and then that'll be the end of it. Probably beat myself up. I'm like sore from sledding because it was like bum, 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 and you like get airborne a little bit and come down, and
yeah,
you feel it some. So
get your Clark Griswold on.
Yeah, you got to get. That's a great idea. Put a little cooking spray on the bottom of that and just poof. It's the best movie ever. So Tony asked in the thread, do we guys have water and power? Yeah. Knock on wood, we have not lost power or water or anything. We've not had a Texas event here in Mississippi. For those of you who are in Texas, and I know some of you are, hang in there, man. What a mess. What a mess. I mean, it kind of has a Katrina feel to it in Texas, where that story's coming out that, this similar thing happened in 2011, and there was a federal investigation and recommendations were made, and the fixes were not done. And here we are again 10 years later. And as a Louisianian, I can tell you that was always the deal about Katrina, is that everybody always knew that a Katrina could happen in Louisiana, the way that New Orleans is built and the way the levee system was, and federal money had always gone into Louisiana, and the politicians corruptly had kept the money and not fixed it. And boom, so when Katrina happened, everybody's like, I don't know how this happens. Let's blame whoever. I'm like, hey, look, you want to blame Bush, or in the Texas case, you want to blame Obama, go for it. I mean, you're kidding yourself. I mean, you're absolutely kidding yourself if you think that Katrina was a George Bush failure or that this is a 2011 Barack Obama failure. Nope. When you see these things happen and you don't say, hey, this could happen again, let's fix it, and then when it goes catastrophically bad, it's awful and you feel for the people. But I imagine the investigations will show that people in Texas from both parties over the last 10 years just sort of assumed that, hey, we don't have to do this, and now you know. All right, so let's talk some recruiting. You've had some takes on Ty Simpson, Zach, that I've looked forward to talking to you about, because you seem to think that Ole Miss is more in this on Ty Simpson than maybe I do. Fill me in.
Yeah, so look, and this isn't me saying Ole Miss is going to get him next Friday. Long way away from that. But this is more of I think once the Gus Malzahn hire was made, Jeff Levy was solidified staying in Oxford. Ty Simpson has not minced words at all. Put it on the board. He speaks incredibly high of Jeff Levy of Ole Miss. Very familiar with the program. His dad and him have been to Oxford plenty. His uncle played at Ole Miss, so he's no stranger to the campus. So this isn't a situation where he's only done Zoom stuff. No, he's been to Oxford. He went to, I think, 3 games in 2020. I know he was there for South Carolina. I think he made 2 or 3 other ones, so maybe 4 games.
So for the people that don't know this, his dad is the coach. Jason Simpson is the coach at UT Martin. He's a kid. So
good football coach.
Yeah, very good football coach. He obviously knows the way the college football deal works. His dad knows everybody at this point. He's been at UT Martin for a long time. I think the dad played at Mississippi State. Is that right? So
I think that's right.
There are Mississippi ties for the family throughout, I think to both Ole Miss and Mississippi State. So the kid's camped at Ole Miss several times. He's camped at Mississippi State. He's camped all over the place. This will be This will be a very educated decision. There will be no tricking Ty Simpson because of who his dad is, and he's a very bright kid as well. But because of who his dad is, and his dad knows everybody, and his dad can pick up the phone and call a lot of people, there's not going to be any wool pulled over his eyes.
No. So he's supposed to announce tomorrow. He canceled it, or I guess postponed it, because his school is out. They're not in school because of the storm. He wants to do it with his classmates, his teammates, I'm sure his family. So they weren't going to be able to do that. So he postponed it a week. Now, I was told, I talked to some people around town that they're familiar with him and his 7-on-7 team and just kind of familiar with his recruitment. And they said that, Clemson, the odds-on favorite going into his decision, but Alabama was lurking. And then Ole Miss has just kind of always been there because of the connections to Mississippi, because of Jeff Lebby. And I was told, and I put it on the board, and of course, like the next day, I was told that Alabama was probably running second or third because of the departure of Steve Sarkisian, who's now the coach at Texas. They got a quarterback commit last weekend from Malik Murphy, really good quarterback out of California. So that kind of potentially put the bow on
Texas. Texas got Murphy, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Sark got his quarterback, played into the California ties that he has out there. So everybody kind of thought, okay, well, he's not going to look at Texas because Sark left. But with Bill O'Brien at Alabama, I think Ty Simpson and his family love, obviously, what Nick Saban has built at Alabama. You know what you get there, and I think that they're still giving Alabama a really hard look. Right now, I still think it's probably Clemson, Alabama. He had Zoom meetings this week with all of his finalists. Tennessee's also in there. I don't think Tennessee's really involved at all. I don't think Heupel's going to have enough time. And then just who knows what's going to happen with that program. But this might be another Luke Altmaier situation where Kiffin and Lebby continue to regardless and stay on him and see what shakes out as this rest of this cycle goes on. Because, look, the dead period got pushed again. So it's going to be a weird one again up until May 31st as we record this on the 18th of February. Who knows if the dead period gets pulled back. But I think Ole Miss is still in this. I wouldn't say that they're, second or first or whatever, but they're still in it. I know the national media giving a lot of credit to Alabama and Clemson, rightfully so. But we've talked about it before, Neal. Clemson recruits very different. And I told people on the board, I think maybe it was Monday, or maybe I lost track of the days because of the storm, but keep an eye on Cade Klubnik, quarterback out of Westlake High School in Texas. If Clemson offers him, kind of reading the tea leaves, is that Ty Simpson may be leaning to Alabama or just not Clemson, because Clemson can recruit like this because of how good they are and how dominant they've been. If you have a spot there and you don't want it, or you're kind of hesitant if you want to take it, they're going to move on. And that's kind of who, talking with some Clemson people, they like Klubnik a lot. They really like Ty Simpson. But if Ty Simpson maybe has a little cold feet, pardon the pun, and maybe looking at Alabama or maybe thinking about Ole Miss, who knows? We'll see. Now, he's scheduled to commit next Friday. As you know, things can change. He can postpone it again. He can say, hey, I'm going to wait a little bit longer. Who knows? But I think Ole Miss is still very much in it, regardless of if he commits to Alabama or Clemson next Friday. I still think they're going to recruit him. I think it's eerily similar to the Altmaier recruitment. This is their guy for 2022. They're going to recruit him until he tells them, hey, guys, look, I'm going elsewhere. Thanks. Like you said, very educated in the recruiting process. His dad is very familiar with how this works. And, quarterbacks typically operate a little more on the mature side of things to where they shut things down. Hey, I'm going here. I'm done. No more interviews. So
they start becoming recruiters, typically, quarterbacks. Yeah. I mean, it was one of the warning signs with Altmaier was that while he was committed to Florida State, he wasn't being particularly active as a recruiter for Florida State. That was one of the signs that, hey, this might not be going the way that Florida State intended for it to go. With right. Simpson, I got to be honest, I'll be shocked, whether it's Clemson or Alabama or Ole Miss or whatever, I'll be shocked if Ty Simpson's one of these renege on the commitment, reopen. That would surprise me, just based on who he is and who his dad is. And There was a lot of talk early, that his dad was going to be a big part of this, that his dad was going to join one of these staffs. That doesn't appear to be the case at this point.
Yeah, as far as I know, I haven't heard anything pertaining to that. But yeah, he very well could just, hey, I'm done. This is where I'm going. Lock it up. But it's certainly something to keep an eye on. Continue to monitor it next week as we get closer and closer. We're, I guess, 8 days out from it as we record this. But look, I mean, Levy and Kiffin, like I said, this is their guy. And like they did with Altmaier, they're going to recruit him until he says to stop. And they may not even stop then. But, yeah, we'll keep an eye on it.
You're being asked in the thread about, I don't know if it's Dante Shore or Dane Shore.
Dane Shore.
Dane Shore. Do you know anything about Dane Shore? Ole Miss has placed with him?
Yeah, big offensive tackle down in Florida, IMG. I think he was looking to be leaning Auburn. Obviously, everything shifted there. Malzahn's gone. Brian Harson's in. Being from Florida, I don't know if UCF could pull it off, but I wouldn't say I'd give them the edge or maybe put them as his leader. But I think Malzahn can certainly make some noise and recruit him. But, I mean, he's a guy that's going to be a national recruit. I don't anticipate him making any kind of an early decision. He's got tons of Power 5 offers, so he'll probably take his time. And, look, the dead period just really screwed things up. I saw Rivals had a piece out today asking some big-time recruits what they thought. I saw one use the metaphor of, were you going to buy a house without doing an inspection first? And, I mean, that's who can blame them.
Yeah, for people, we do this weekly update on this. As of right now, there's two schools of thought about the dead period. One is that it ends on April the 15th, or that it gets sort of altered on April the 15th where there's limited recruiting that's made possible. The other that's out there is that the dead period goes through June the 30th, and nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
I mean, I get criticized whenever I say this. At some point, somebody has to say, okay, we're going to open it back up from a recruiting standpoint and understand that there's going to be criticism. There's going to be, oh, God, you're putting people at risk, you're whatever, and that criticism is hard for people to absorb. I'm trying not to be political about it. I'm being honest, and I've talked to people in college coaching who've said this to me, that at some point you have to say, hey, look, we got to do this. There's a way to do it. Where it's safer, where we do it differently than we used to do it, but at some point there has to be some in-person communication, and to do it we have to open up, and when you open up there's going to be criticism. There's going to be people who say, hey, you did it for a year with Zoom, why don't you do it for another year with Zoom? And so I don't know what's going to happen. So no one really does. There is an active movement among some college coaches to say, hey, look, middle of April, we got to go. We got to do this. This is not fair to the kids. It's not fair to us. It's not right. It doesn't work. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. And there's a lot of other things, obviously, outside of college football that has to happen, college basketball that has to happen. Who knows? Maybe by then numbers will be down, cases will be down, immunizations will be up. There'll be a little more. It'll be a little more palatable politically to do it. Who knows? No one knows. So we'll see.
Yeah.
All right, we'll switch to some other guys in just a second. First, I want to tell you real quick about a handful of the people who make this show possible. Daniel Barfield Wealth Management. He's been serving individuals and businesses in the Oxford and North Mississippi area for more than 20 years. You can get in touch with him at 662-236-6454. Visit his website, barfieldwealthmanagement.com, to learn how he can help you. We're also brought to you by Billy's Small Batch Bacon. My friend William Stitt has mastered the art of bacon, more than 3 decades in the restaurant and hospitality business. Bacon is his passion. Really suggest that you go to his site, billysbacon.com, BILLES bacon.com, and try it today. Order 5 pounds or more, you get a free hat. Just put the promo code Rebel Grove in the coupon tab there on the site. You'll love the bacon. It's absolutely fantastic. So get some today. We're also brought to you by Alpha Specialties, located at 1670 Highway 80 in Pearl, Mississippi. They're your trailer-specific professional. They've got load trail trailers, Hallmark cargo trailers, and so much more. They can repair all types of trailers. Listeners get a 10% off a yearly trailer service and inspection at their full-service shop. It's alphaofms.com or 601-932-9798. Also brought to you by Jennings Executive Search. Jennings Executive Search specializes in the recruiting of accounting, finance, strategy, corporate development, and data science professionals from the staff to C-level in all industries. So whether you're a small business owner who needs a finance leader, work in private equity, or run a team at a Fortune 500 company, John and his recruitment team of public accountants will simplify the hiring process by presenting you with a short list of only the most qualified candidates. To learn more, go to John, Jon, at JenningsEXEC.com or call 404-536-3000. And we're brought to you by Muddy Water Camo. Go to Muddy Water Outdoors today. You can enter the promo code Rebel Grove. You get one. If you get one Tri-Zone heated jacket or vest, you get another one free. Go in, buy the battery as well. One battery. It's the My Charge portable battery. They'll put the other one in your cart for free at muddywateroutdoors.com. That's Muddy Water Camo, muddywateroutdoors.com. And if you're a decision maker or influencer for a middle market size business or large corporation, or if you're a business owner, CFO, controller, HR professional, or you assist your company with making financial decisions, you want to get in touch with Hunter Maynard of USI Insurance. They're a risk management professional who specializes in negotiating between your company and the insurance carrier by working closely with business executives to ensure they have the most effective, cost-efficient property and casualty insurance program possible. They're in Tennessee, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Alabama, and you can reach them at 901-233-4614 or hunter.maynard@usi.com. Who are some other football guys that are sort of on your radar right now before we switch to basketball here in a minute?
Honestly, right now, I think the biggest, trend or kind of momentum right now would be in-state. All jokes aside, with recruiting nationally and not worrying about Mississippi, kind of the similar names that we talked about last week. Kamari Rogers continues to look to be trending towards Ole Miss. I know Miami is involved there. That's probably, if I had to guess, I'd probably say that's his top two right now. Terrell Buckley has been doing an outstanding job recruiting him. I think the ship has sailed with LSU. I don't know why. I think he's kind of looked at Ole Miss a little bit harder, and then Miami has been recruiting him pretty hard. And then I would say the defensive line, guys like R.J. Moss, I put him on the board earlier this week, rated a 4-star by Rivals now. The kid out of Biloxi, strong side defensive end. I think they're going to be giving him a really hard look. Last time I talked to him, he said he still talks to Buckley, still talks to DJ Durkin. That'll be a Ole Miss Mississippi State battle if I had to guess. And then, just kind of the known commodities up front. Jaheim Otis, probably their number one overall target outside of Ty Simpson and Walter Nolan up in Memphis at St. Benedict. And look, a lot was made about that. Didn't make the top 10. Still think Ole Miss is going to recruit him until he signs. I don't think that's going to stop them at all. Randall Joyner's now on staff. He's going to go after him hard. And there's a lot of connections there with Kiffin and his head coach, Marlon Walls, at St. Benedict. And they're going to continue to recruit him regardless of what some graphic on Twitter says. And then, I think we talked about him last week, Blake Gunter, the tight end. He added an offer from Tennessee this week. I think Ole Miss could be looking to, I wouldn't say push for a commitment, but I know that he's talked with John David Baker. The transition from Joe John Finley to him has been good. He told me that they talk now, and he hated to see Finley leave because they had a good relationship. But he said, hey, it's a business. Don't fault him for going to Oklahoma.
Sure.
But yeah, I think right now with the way the recruiting cycle is, without visits, without any kind of in-person contact, it's going to be work kind of inside out with looking at what you got in state with guys that are familiar with Oxford, guys that are familiar with the campus, familiar with the staff. And I think that's where, Buckley and Derek Nix come in handy because They know the ins and outs of Mississippi recruiting. They're very familiar with the coaches in the state, so they have some good rapport built, and I think that's probably who you're looking at right now. If you're looking at, if somebody's going to ask, who's going to be the next guy to commit, I wouldn't be shocked if it's somebody from Mississippi.
The question is asked. We've talked about this a little bit. Is the in-state class in Mississippi better than or the 19 class? Is it more top heavy? Is it deeper?
Man, it's tough to say without seeing a senior year yet. That 19 class was loaded. I mean, you saw guys like Derek Hall played a ton for Auburn this year, and he was kind of, I don't remember what his rank was. He was probably 6 or 7 or 8 in the state that year, maybe lower. He played a lot for Auburn. Nakobe Dean's going to hear his name called and walk across the stage at some point.
Yeah, he's great.
He's a monster. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of maybe not as deep or maybe not as, on paper as good as 19. But, they're going to re-rank these guys at some point. But, Branson Robinson's a 3-star at Germantown in Madison, Mississippi. And, he's got offers from everybody. I think Georgia has made him a focal point. I talked with Chad Simmons a couple weeks ago, and he told me, he said, man, Georgia is after him bad. They want him bad. So that speaks a lot when a 3-star, a 5.7 3-star is Michigan, Georgia, Oregon wants him.
Some of the camp circuit stuff has begun to get started again. That's going to help.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to help the rankings and stuff. In fairness to Rivals and 24/7 and anybody else, so that you don't think that I'm playing network favorites here.
No.
In fairness to both networks and ESPN or anybody else who's trying to rank kids, if you can't see them at camps and you can't see them at 7-on-7s, and some kids, this doesn't apply to the South really, but some kids nationally didn't play last season. So, how the hell do you get the rankings right? You don't. And so as long as, and I think most of the networks have been pretty transparent about that. As long as you admit that, it's okay. You're going to make mistakes. So are coaches. Coaches are going to make mistakes on these recruiting cycles. They just are. So they're going to be guys that sign with high-level programs with upper 4-star rankings and even some 5-star rankings that are going to bust. And there's going to be some 3-star guys that are late bloomers that the national media people are going to be like, oh, see, the recruiting doesn't matter. It's like, well, they didn't get evaluated. They didn't get to go to camp series events, and so stuff got missed. All right.
Mm-hmm.
There's a quick question here about transfer talk. I can tell you that, no, I haven't really heard any more transfer talk. I think it's going to be pretty quiet until later in the spring. Late in the spring. What I can tell you about transfer talk that I'm going to continue to reiterate, because it's going to be a big story this summer, is there are going to be hundreds, plural, of guys in the transfer portal that have no place to go. That's going to be this big story in the summer, and some of the national media types are going to act like this is breaking news and that it is this travesty. It's not breaking news, and while it is unfortunate, it is an example of there's a lot of guys that are leaving programs right now because they are under the delusion that they're going to have multiple opportunities. And the way that the rules are set up now, and these rules are going to change, but they're not going to change this year. The way these rules are set up now, you can only bring in a certain number of guys.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if there's guys in the portal that you want to go after, you can't unless they're willing to walk on. And most of these guys can't afford to walk on. So there's going to be a lot of guys in the portal with no place to go. And you're starting to see this more and more, and this is the trickle down, and this is where it's unfortunate for high school kids. You're seeing more and more low mid-majors, if you will, using a college basketball term, who are saying, hey, you know what? To hell with it. We're only going to sign 4 or 5 high school guys. We're going to save 20 spots for the portal. And it's just going to become – they're going to become the equivalent of the Major League Baseball team that isn't really trying to compete, that just goes into each – they have to kind of turn their roster over and just turn their roster over and turn their roster over. And that's what some college football is going to start looking like until some of the legislation changes it. And the legislation will eventually change it, but it's not happening now. And so for Ole Miss, they only have like a couple spots left. I fully anticipate one of those spots going to Trey Berry, and one more spot that I think you'll see them try to use on defense, probably a defensive lineman, but I can't sit here and tell you a name. I don't know one. And if there are other people that know the names, good for them. Kudos. I don't know them.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, and even if you are, it still doesn't guarantee anything. But I mean, being a grad transfer is a leg up.
Oh, it's two legs up. It's two legs, a torso, and a neck up.
Yeah, you're just 1 year in and out. Boom, Kenny Yeboah.
And you don't count against the 25.
Exactly.
That's my understanding. Is grad transfers don't count against the 25. I think I'm right on that. That was a question last week. I think I'm right. But regardless, it's easier to deal with those guys. But just these pure transfers, and as of this moment, the 1 year no penalty transfer hasn't passed. I think literally everyone anticipates that it will. But as of this moment, it hasn't. So that whole the transfer chaos that's coming late spring, early this summer, and it's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because regardless of why they transfer, whether it was, hey, they weren't getting playing time, they want to go be the dude somewhere. Something happened, a family thing. They want to be closer to home. Regardless of how it happened, there are going to be a lot of guys that are just going to be screwed. There's no other way to put it. I mean, it sucks. Like, you're just not going to have a spot. I mean, unless you connect with a coaching staff quickly and snag a spot, or, I mentioned, I put a guy on the board today, Caleb Oliver, the Georgia Tech guy. He's going to be a grad transfer. He's got some connections at other schools. He was committed to Mississippi State at one point, but it's a brand new staff. Are they going to want him? He went and visited Ole Miss before he ended up committing and signing with Georgia Tech. Again, brand new staff. Is this staff going to want him? Are they going to give him a look? I mean, who knows? So it's just, you're really rolling the dice. I mean, all the poker and gambling metaphors you want. I mean, you're going all in, and it is boom or bust. I mean, if you can't find a spot, I mean, what do you do? I mean, you go FCS? You go NAIA? I don't know. I mean, it's terrible.
It's terrible. There's a bunch of guys, and the high level guys have places to go, but man, the other ones, it's going to be. I kind of dread it because there's a lot of fans that, and I get it. I'm not criticizing fans at all. There's a lot of fans that don't really understand the story. They don't really understand the way it works. And this summer, there's going to be a whole lot of people asking, but why can't you take 12 guys? Because those are the rules. All right. Before we switch to basketball, I know there's a handful of businesses out there that have made this podcast possible. Why don't you tell the people about those?
Yeah, I was going to say somebody that has solidified a spot, Lamar Yard. Podcast brought to you by the good folks there. Soon to be open indoor-outdoor restaurant, bar, and entertainment space on South Lamar. 10,000 square feet of indoor space and 3/4 of an acre of outdoor space. Full stage, indoor-outdoor projectors, 3 bars, a children's playground, and they will have parking on site for you to come and enjoy their Texas barbecue and more. Lamar Yard will be Oxford's quintessential family and pet-friendly venue, and they look forward to hosting you soon this spring as they get open. Check everything out at lamaryard.com. Also brought to you by Kelly English Restaurant Group. Memphis restaurateur Kelly English, the renowned chef, and his team now offer nationwide shipping, wild game cooking programs, and Cooking with Kelly. That's Zoom-led cooking classes with Kelly. You can learn more about that nationwide shipping at irisetcetera.com. That's irisetc.com. And you can book a virtual cooking class at table22.com/iris. All this and more can be found at chefkellyenglish.com. Also, Soft Verbal brought to you by Cherokee Valley Golf Course in Olive Branch, Mississippi. Get on over and see Cody Allen and the crew to take on the challenge of their wide plush Zoysia fairways and large championship Bermuda greens. They have 2 putting greens. You want to hone in your game with a flat stick, a driving range, and a chipping green to tighten up that short game. Book a tee time online at olivebranchgolf.com or give them a call at 662-893-4444.
All right, let's talk some basketball. Kermit Davis did a Zoom call today. We talked about roster management. He he basically admitted, there's no basically to it, he admitted that, hell, he doesn't know what his roster is going to look like next season. Because of COVID, guys can come back who are seniors. I think everybody anticipates Devontae Shuler's going to leave. Romello White's going to leave. No one really knows what's going to happen with Haneem C, whether he comes back or not. My anticipation is that he probably will. Other guys will leave. Guys are going to leave for other opportunities. The guys are going to transfer out. Most eyes are on this coming recruiting class. Is kind of interesting because they've already got 3 guys signed: Deshaun Ruffin, Grant Slatton, James White. They're all signed. They are actively pursuing Brandon Huntley-Hatfield, who we're going to talk about in a minute. I know of at least one player who I think is going to get in the transfer portal, who Ole Miss is going to be very actively pursuing, to the point that I think they'll get him. And then I don't know what else happens with the rest of the roster. There's a lot there. So I'm curious. Let's talk about Brandon Huntley-Hatfield, though, because here's this 5-star guy that would be the highest-rated player Ole Miss has ever signed in basketball, who a few weeks ago –
all due respect to Johnny Newman.
Yeah, in the modern era.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, it didn't look good. I still think it kind of – I think it's starting to look better. In large part because of the way that the team has begun to look. They've begun to look – they're playing much better basketball right now. There's only one team in the SEC that's hotter than Ole Miss, and that's Arkansas. Arkansas's won 7 in a row, I think, after beating Florida the other night. Ole Miss has won 4 in a row going into Saturday's game against Mississippi State. So I think we have to give credit to the Razorbacks since one of those 7 wins was over Ole Miss. I think we have to admit that they're hotter than Ole Miss, but Ole Miss is really hot. They're playing really well right now. They look better, and so there's more stability inside the program in the eyes of Huntley-Hatfield. And I think they're back really in it again. What's kind of the latest you're hearing there?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people on the board especially got spooked. There was an interview where he spoke pretty highly of Syracuse and Jim Boeheim. He had a Zoom call, and look, I mean, it was basic boilerplate, hey, the call went great. I like Coach Boeheim. They put a lot of guys in the league, blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, I mean, I think and things got quiet, too, to where there wasn't anything to report. There wasn't anything new. But, yeah, I mean, I still think Ole Miss is in the driver's seat for him. Jamie Shaw, Rivals national basketball analyst, put in a future cast. Jamie's about as well connected as anybody. He's kind of, stepped in for that role when Corey Evans left for the gig with the Thunder. He was kind of our go-to for anything national. Jamie put his future cast in. I think that I'll say this, Neal. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the way that KJ Buffin has been playing in this 4-game stretch and kind of that emergence of Luis Rodriguez. Now, Luis is a little bit different player than Huntley-Hatfield, but those two guys, kind of that 3 to stretch 3-4 guy, the way they're utilizing the offense, I think that's kind of caught his attention, and the way that they have kind of they've played this weird hybrid of they like to slow it down, hard defense, really grind you down, but then they can get out and transition. I mean, they scored 80 points against Missouri, so they can score in bunches if another team doesn't have their A game offensively. I think Huntley-Hatfield has kind of turned his attention to Ole Miss now. I think it's probably Ole Miss and Syracuse right now.
I think you're right. That they're also kind of using Romello White with a lot of pick and pop type stuff, which is the way that Romello's game with Devontae Shuler is starting to work on the floor has an NBA look to it. If you watch a lot of NBA, and early in the season, look, I think Ole Miss was. I'm not making excuses for them, but I think they were one of the teams. Go back and remember the beginning of the year. Not only did they deal with all the COVID stuff, everybody else dealt with a late start, and you didn't know when you were starting. But right about the time that Ole Miss was getting ready to start is when they had their COVID breakout that got their team basically herd immunity for the rest of the season. So but that delayed them 2 weeks. And so you have all these new faces. They're getting ready to start, and then, nope, pull the plug. And then you plug it back in, and it takes a while to kind of get it going. And they were pretty good on the defensive end and just awful on the offensive end. Mm-hmm. And they've started to get some continuity. They have a feel on offense. Buffin's back these last few games. That's helped a ton. They're using Romello White a lot more effectively, and a lot of that is just Romello is setting better angles on his screens. It's creating more pick and pop opportunities, more shots for him at the rim. They're running the offense through him more. Just the other guys, they've played, 20 games. Mm-hmm. Well, in a regular season, 20 games would be 13 non-league games, 7 league games. You'd be kind of rolling right now. In a normal season, at this point in the year, they would have played another 8-9 games than they've played right now. Well, there's a lot of chemistry that comes in those games. Anyway, I think the product that Brandon Huntley-Hatfield has seen on the floor is a much different product than what he saw earlier, and he's probably given him some confidence moving forward. I think I'm not prepared to put some future cast in. I'm with you, though. I like Ole Miss's chances, and I think he's significant. And then let's talk about the rest of the class a little bit. Ruffin had a terrific year. Slatton has had a terrific year. White had a really good year. A couple of those guys, I think, have been invited to the McDonald's thing. Is that right?
Yeah, so they were nominated. I think I don't know when they'll trim the list down or finalize the roster. But, yeah, Ruffin and White were both nominated from the South region to be on the roster. James White's senior season's done. He was the region player of the year in Georgia in a really competitive league down there. Average, I think, 27.5 a game. Ruffin, Callaway hasn't lost a game yet. They got to bye. The playoffs in Mississippi are pushed back because of the weather, but I would fully anticipate him and David Sanders and the rest of that group to win state again. He's averaging over 30 a game. Slatton was named the district player of the year. He's averaging over 30 a game. So, look, I know it's not going to be the same in college. Like the transition from high school to college, they're not going to be scoring that much. And if they are, covering this team will be pretty fun. But
Ruffin's a dynamic offensive player. The transition for Ruffin at the college level is going to be defense. No question about that. White is a guy whose upside is off the charts. The challenge for him early in his college career is going to be getting stronger, which, in other words, is defense. And then I don't know what Slatton is. I mean, he's a guy who can really score. I think there's a real chance that he's one of these guys who's just really underrated as a high school player who comes in and is kind of ready to contribute at the college level. Or he could be a guy who comes to the college level and you realize he's got to get a lot stronger and it's going to take a transition time. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah. I think the hope is that you kind of let Ruffin come in and you just let him do his thing. He's a guy he just scores. He scores in any way possible. He's small, but he just gets it done. He's got a little bit of Bree and Tyree in him where he just kind of gets to the rim. It doesn't matter who's guarding him. White, I think, is going to be a guy that's going to need to be eating at, Cafe 1812 or whatever the football. Yeah, he's going to have to eat a lot.
The 1810 grill. Yeah, he's got to get bigger.
Yeah, he's going to need to add some weight. And, I think Slatton, best case, comes in and he's just a spot-up shooter that can come in and give you some buckets off the bench and continue to grow and become a more well-rounded player. Now, he's a guy that scored over 2,000 points in high school, so he's another guy that just scores in volume. But yeah, the transition is going to be tough because the SEC is as good a league as there is in the country now. Everybody's bigger, longer, more athletic. People stretch the floor defensively now more than ever. So having that guy that can knock down threes, and look, I think that could have played a role in this. I think Huntley-Hatfield seeing these other guys that are coming in a year ahead of him that can score, it's pretty obvious to think as, a player like him coming in, like, hey, I'm not going to have to do it all. I'm going to have some help. Like, these guys will probably be pretty good. So yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it with the Romello comparison there. With I think Huntley-Hatfield's up to probably 235, 240. He's gotten a little bigger. Maybe he still grows another inch or two. But yeah, I mean, a dynamic post presence who can also shoot. I mean, that's the NBA way these days. So,
yeah, I think you'll see Ole Miss get in the transfer portal and try to add another guard. They're going to try to add a veteran there, I think, because I don't think it's realistic that Devontae Shuler comes back. And to me that's silly. I've heard people go, well, he could come back. Well, he could, but he's not going to. Jarkel Joyner will be back. I don't know what happens with a couple other guards. Do they come back? Do they transfer out? I do think Matthew Morrell stays. I think Matthew Morrell's going to take his game to another level. There are some signs of it already. But along the lines of what we just talked about with the freshmen, Morrell's kind of should be your cautionary tale here. If you're counting on those guys to come in and go, boom, here's 20 a night, Morrell didn't do it. I'm not saying they won't do it, but Morrell didn't do it. It takes time. And, I mean, I think Matthew will be a much better sophomore than he was a freshman. Like most sophomores are better than freshmen. But, if you're counting on new guys to come in and just blow up the league, it typically doesn't happen. And that applies to Huntley-Hatfield as well. If he comes in. I mean, if you're counting on him to come in and look like Romello White in year one, you're probably going to be pretty disappointed. Is he a guy, though, with a really high ceiling? He absolutely is. Is he a guy who could impact as a freshman? He absolutely could. We'll see. College basketball has always been a roster makeover sport. The last few years, it becomes even more so now. And you throw in the one-time no-penalty transfer rule, assuming it passes, and I do, I think you'll see even more turnover. Yeah,
I mean, you talk about the security of bringing in a guy that's 14th in the country in his class. I mean, basketball is hard, but bring a guy that's that highly rated, more times than not, he's going to be able to be productive for you. Speaking of security, show is also brought to you by Protection Unlimited, Mid-South's leader in commercial and residential alarm security. Wayne Lowry and his team have been serving the greater Memphis area and North Mississippi for 40-plus years, and they'd love to get your business and protect you and your family today. Cutting-edge security, home and business, video surveillance options, and monitoring 24/7. Reach them via phone at 901-754-6510 or email them at info@protectionunlimited.com. Also brought to you by Bluff City Advisory Group, Memphis's leading team of finance professionals who can provide advanced assistance with financial planning, pension, and qualified plan support, and business and estate planning strategies. Former Ole Miss Rebel and founding partner Ben Steele, along with his elite-level customer service team, make it their goal to help you find or reach the demands of your financial needs. Reach them at bluffcityadvisory.com. Podcast also brought to you by the Berry Home Team. Stacy and Rick Berry have affiliated themselves with Keller Williams Realty to provide superior customer service to their clients. Stacy and Rick will partner with you to make sure your home buying or selling experience is a seamless transition. Let them unlock Memphis for you. Follow them on Instagram or call them at 901-481-6420. And after you get done with the Berry Home Team, go ahead and give a call. Saddle Creek Title, the Mid-South's leader in client-focused, innovative closing solutions. Neal Hanna and his team, they're more than just a real estate closing firm. They're dedicated to going the distance to ensure the ease and growth of your real estate business. All that and more at saddlecreektitle.com. Transamerica Insurance is also a proud sponsor of the show. They are changing the way that you look at life insurance. Rated best term life insurance company in 2020 by Forbes, Transamerica offers 10, 20, and 30-year term life insurance catered to your individual needs. So call now and get a free quote from Drew Moak at 601-953-8449. That's 601-953-8449. And last but certainly not least, Davis McCord State Farm. Where can you get good neighbor service and surprisingly great insurance rates? Go ahead and get it at State Farm. Davis McCord is your one-stop shop in Tennessee and Mississippi for the service you deserve at the price you want. So stop looking around. State Farm agent Davis McCord is ready to help. 901-755-6110.
We got asked, as we wrap up, about transfer talk in football. I can just tell you this, and I don't mean this to be like a tease. There's stuff that's out there, and I'm not really at liberty to say the names. There are some big-name basketball transfers that I think are going to pop up tied to Ole Miss, and I think there's smoke where there's fire where there's that smoke, and I just anticipate a pretty active April, May, and hell, maybe early June with basketball.
Yeah. Bust out the smoke gif.
Yeah, and I hate doing that. And you know me, I don't like being dramatic about it. I can't stand it. It drives me nuts. It's just basketball recruiting. It's not landing men on Mars or something. It's just it ain't that big of a deal.
Hey, speaking of, literally on Mars today.
Did you see that? That was such a cool moment because all those people at NASA and stuff and who have worked. Can you imagine how many hours and how much stress has been about that landing safely on Mars?
Oh.
And when they see it happen, the joy. I mean, you see all these brilliant nerds just kind of go crazy, and you can't help but be happy for them. They saw that thing land safely on Mars, man. I mean, they've watched that, and it happens, and what a feeling that must have been. I mean,
cool moment for Matt Damon and the rest of the crew that they were on Mars at one point.
Yeah,
it's good to see. There's a cool thread. It's on Twitter somewhere, but it was just a thread of videos of all the people at NASA like going nuts.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I mean, you got to think like years and years and years of planning and work to make that happen. So that's pretty awesome.
Well, and the margin for error was so small. And if you screw it up, it's just, what do you do? It's not
it's like a $30 million mistake.
It's not like you can hop in a quick plane, head to Mars, and fix it. It's done.
Yeah.
And because it's there forever. I mean, I follow it on Twitter. He says, hey, the Twitter account behind the ship, if you will, that landed on Mars is, hey, it says, hello world, my first look at my forever home. NASA's it's Perseverance Mars, the Perseverance Mars rover launched on July the 30th. Landed today.
That's awesome.
I mean, just incredible. So cool. It's you can't help but be super happy for the people that did that. I mean,
can't even imagine the stress.
No, I mean, just pure joy for today. So I know they're all listening to this podcast, so congratulations to all of you for that. It's what, on a smaller scale, it's what Ole Miss would feel like if it landed Ty Simpson and then about 3 5-stars and turn the corner on a recruiting class, because it was really cool.
Would you say landing a commitment from Arch Manning is as big a deal as Perseverance rover?
I mean, for Ole Miss, yes. In the whole scheme of life, no, I would not.
For Alabama, just be a Tuesday.
No, I would not. 300 million miles.
Yeah,
unbelievable. So cool.
I've seen the movie The Martian so many times. I love that film, but I still don't get like the soul, like how they measure time there, like the soul, like it's because like I don't know if you're familiar with the movie, but when he is stranded there, the other ship, like there are like a certain amount of souls before they can come back to get him, so he's just stuck there, and that's anyway, that's cool.
Yeah, it's just really cool. They had to pick a spot on Mars for it to land. They had to land it on a certain spot.
I figure you just shoot for the big rock and just hope you land safely.
No, they had like a landing zone and everything. It was really cool. Anyway, we'll stop there. We'll come back next week with another edition of the Soft Verbal Podcast presented by College Corner. Don't forget, it's collegecornerstore.com. 2 locations in Jackson, and then you can also order off the internet. So get in touch with them. Make sure you tell them you heard about it on the Soft Verbal. We'll be back in about 10, 15 minutes with the Oxford Exxon Podcast, hand-raised guys, Chase Parham and myself, via a setup similar to the one that you're watching this on here. We'll have this in podcast form to you on Friday. So until next time.